Kazuo, I want to talk to you now, and I want to find out your response to why we are touting this technology. Particularly, I see at Hitachi, I know that there's been a lot that you all have done to advance in this space as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lee. First, I am honored to be here in this panel today with among distinguished speakers. And thank you for inviting me, Japan Society, particularly Dr. Walker. My name is Kazuo Noguchi, Senior Manager of R&D Hitachi America. Let me make a disclaimer that my opinion is my own, not employers. I'm also the Executive Director of International Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, or INC-COE, as a part of the Keio Universities as a senior researcher. And this is actually the consortium, nonprofit in UK, US, Japan, started as the academia and working with the government folks and industry folks. And so that's a part of the my passion to create some community of government, industry, and academia. And the 5G drew attention when Huawei ban came into the picture from the particularly market dominance and the security threats perspective. And the UK, for instance, I realized that in July, they also joined the ban. Although they said that after 10 years of research at the Huawei Cybersecurity Evaluation Center with GCHQ and the National Cybersecurity Center, because of some trust issue. In the US, I recognized some ongoing facts that, as Dr. Lee, you mentioned that US DoD also spending $600 million for 5G testing for national security perspective and secure 5G. Also in the US, digital decoupling is one of the big issues coming out. And also in the meantime, Cyberspace Solarium Commission report came in March this year. And just recently in November, ICT supply chain, the report came out. Supposed to be very trusted whole supply chain. Japan, on the other hand, 5G became the catalyst and the innovation for the technology area, digital transformation, also the sustainable development goals, or SDG. And the showcasing towards Tokyo Olympics, that's a great moment to go into the 5G as a new technological innovation area. And so far, I recognized also the local 5G is a solid candidate, including remote healthcare and augmented reality, virtual reality, and the agriculture, smart factory, connected car, so on. And super smart city, which is ongoing, Hitachi is also committed. Society 5.0, which is the super smart city, one of the core concept for innovation addressing, you also mentioned, less kids and a lot of elderly people, how to address those fundamental issues using a new technology, 5G, AI, IoT, robotics, and so on. And the satellite is also on the horizon, and the 5G and the 6G and the backhaul as the satellite. And all in all, 5G has some reports said that the $12 trillion global impact, which is significant. Finally, I like to mention that the keeping a trusted relationship is quite important one. Some discussion coming out, security clearance mechanism, particularly US-Japan perspective and the government level is critical to get the foundation of national security perspective. And the collaboration in government, industry, academia is key partnership in the multilateral areas. For industry, I also recognized that zero trust architecture concept, which is already published by NIST, and the mutual digital trust, EU, Japan, and the US. Those are quite important initiative going forward. So back to you, Dr. Lee.
Yeah, you brought up some really great points. I can't wait to delve into these questions because I think in terms of the US-Japan relationship, we're going to see greater cooperation that we have seen with China based on what Elsa was talking about in terms of Chinese market dominance when it comes to 5G. I want to be sure before we jump into the nuts and bolts around security and the policy implications, as well as the relationship that we'll see develop between the US and Japan, I want to be clear that the people who are listening understand just the difference between 5G and 4G LTE. Muriel, I'll come back to you just for a moment, just to make sure that we have that distinction, because I know in my research, it's often touted that, well, you could maybe do the same things with 4G LTE as before, 5G. Why do we really need 5G to actually do those things? And as an engineer, can you just explain some of the subtle differences in 5G compared to the last version of mobile technologies?
Yes. So let me start out by saying that we all talk about 5G, but let me repeat what I said before. It's not clear that we will need what's currently touted as 5G to get the services I mentioned. So there's a set of desiderata, okay, for heterogeneity, for low delay, for ubiquity. It is not clear that it will be the current players, the 3GPP players, and you've talked about who some of those dominant players are going to give that. The usual reason why you have every 10 years a new generation is not necessarily because of the technology at all. It's because we were relying on a basically traditional phone system, and the equipment was basically at the end of its life. Not even necessarily technically, but certainly from a tax perspective, okay? So I think, I don't mean to be cynical, but we really need to think of it in that respect. At the same time, there has been a lot of evolution in Wi-Fi. I'm using Wi-Fi right now. There's no way I could have done this on Wi-Fi 10 years ago. There's no way, even with a pretty good system. And I have a pretty cheapo system at home, okay? So I think that what we need to do is really think of the set, as I said, the informal definition of 5G, which is the next level of integration, and particularly Kazuo mentioned satellites. I think that's going to be extremely important in terms of the coverage and in terms of having a complete different backhaul. That's to say, how you get into the core of the internet. But it is not clear to me that it has to be the traditional 3GPP players, where, as you have mentioned, the US's and North America's footprint has certainly decreased. Okay. In terms of the security, I really want to point out that it really, again, depends how you're doing it. If you're doing it the old-fashioned way, the phone company, in effect, going to one or two of its suppliers, which, remember, the phone company used to be the same one as the equipment manufacturer. That was split everywhere in the US, by Judge Green in the 80s. But then there's still a completely umbilical relationship between the suppliers and the operators. The operators don't do any of the engineering innovation anymore. They just buy from the suppliers. So if you're looking at maintaining that structure, of course you have a horrible problem with security. If instead, and you talked about zero trust, somebody talked about the zero trust aspect. If instead you had to have trusted systems running on top of untrusted networks, and it doesn't matter why you don't trust it. It doesn't matter if because you have a geopolitical concern that, the guy whoever, can produce the stuff in the base station, was working for the intelligence services of a country you don't like, or whether it's just, I'm connecting to the Wi-Fi at my local coffee shop, and I'm pretty sure the coffee shop owner is not exactly updating security software. That's not why I go there. I go there for the coffee. It doesn't matter, that instead having the correct level of structures on top of it. I think that's what's important. And I think the problem there is the closed aspect of 3GPP, which is why you're seeing a lot of effort around Open RAN. Now, Open RAN does not mean that there is no intellectual property possible. It just means that just the operation itself can be done by outside parties. And I think that's where the actual issue is.
Mhm.
It's not so much around the equipment, is are you going to be able to have an open system just so that you can mix and match equipment from different suppliers. If you look at the Wi-Fi, and again, Wi-Fi keeps improving all the time. If you look at the Wi-Fi Alliance, recently they announced you can do roaming with Wi-Fi.
Right, right.